Welcome back to the Explanation Pro. Today I'll recap a war drama film called Winter in Wartime. Spoilers incoming. In January 1945, the Netherlands is currently being colonized by German Nazis. A young boy named Michiel van Boyskum hears a rumbling sound outside, and as he looks out his window, he catches sight of a British fighter plane crashing in a nearby forest. At the site of the crash, a German soldier sees the commotion and goes to see what has happened. He suddenly notices blood dripping in front of him, and as he looks up, he sees a hanging British soldier who quickly shot him to his death before he could do anything. The next morning, Michiel and his friend Theo checks out the crash site and they sneakily make fun of the things they found there, while German soldiers are unaware of their presence. Not long enough, they are discovered by the Germans, and before the kids ran, Michiel takes away a watch nearby and they both hurriedly escape. Theo luckily goes to a different path and escapes, but Michiel falls down near a bridge where he lands in front of another German soldier. Michiel is then brought into the town hall, which also serves as the German Nazis' headquarters. The Germans call in his father Johann van Boyskum, who is the town mayor, and the German commander Auer explains to Johann that his son had trespassed into a restricted area alongside another kid, but when asked about the name of the other kid, Michiel lies about being alone. As the father and son leave the town hall to go home, Michiel is annoyed that his father is friendly towards the Germans. At home, Michiel checks out the watch he got from the crash site and he suddenly hears a strange sound coming from outside. There he sees Theo spinning around a rubber hose he took from the crash site. Theo asks if he had mentioned his name to the Germans. Fortunately, Michiel saved his friend. At night, a visitor comes to their home, and Michiel is surprised to see that it is his favorite Uncle Ben. An ecstatic Michiel greatly accommodates Ben and quickly helps with his bed and suitcase. In the attic, Michiel opens up Ben's suitcase and sees papers about his resistance against the Germans and a gun as well. The next day, Theo's older brother Dirk talks to Michiel privately in his room, where Dirk gives a letter to Michiel and instructs him to give it to Bertus van Gelder if he doesn't come back after their secret mission of taking the ammunition depot at Lagezinde. Michiel eventually agrees and curiously goes to the town's port, where he sees the ferryman smuggling Dirk and other men to Lagezinde while German guards are having their afternoon tea. At dawn, the Boyskum family enjoys their evening dancing around their living room, but Johann suddenly hears a commotion going on at their neighbor's house, which is Theo and Dirk's house. As a city mayor, Johann goes outside to talk with the Germans, and he successfully helps Dirk's father be set free from the Germans. As he goes back home, Johann asks Michiel if he is involved with Dirk's raid plan in Lagezinde, and Michiel lies about not knowing anything, knowing that Dirk is arrested while the other men are killed. Before going to bed, Ben tells Michiel to not be involved in the war and to refrain from being in danger. The following day, Michiel goes to meet Bertus to give him the letter from Dirk. Unfortunately, Mr. Schafter, who is an ally of the Germans, is also there, and so he fails to give the letter to Bertus, wherein Bertus instructs him to go back in the afternoon. Later that day, Michiel waits outside of Bertus' shop to give him the letter, but he instead sees Bertus be killed by the Germans. A frightened Michiel flees from the town and realizes that he is stuck in the middle of something dangerous. Michiel goes back home, and as he puts his horse in its stable, curiosity hits him, and so he opens the letter Dirk gave him, and there he sees a written direction that leads to the woods. Craving an adventure, Michiel goes to the location stated in the letter, and he ends up in an abandoned hunter's shelter. He sees a wounded British soldier who is from the recent plane crash. Michiel talks to the British man with the little English that he had learned from school. He informs the man about Dirk and Bertus' death, and he insists on telling the man that he can help him. The man later introduces himself as Jack and threatens Michiel that he will break his leg if he tells anyone about his situation. Adding to this, he also asks for food from Michiel before he leaves. As Michiel goes back home to get food in their pantry, he overhears his father and Ben arguing about Johann insisting that they cooperate with the Germans so that no more casualties will occur in their town. But Ben refuses to cooperate with the Germans since he is also a part of a resistance against them. As Ben walks out, Michiel also shrugs off his father, showing his dismay towards his father's friendly action towards the Germans. The next day, Michiel goes back to bring food to Jack, and there they bond together by smoking cigarettes and playing cards. Jack explains to Michiel that he needs to go to Zwolle since he has a contact there that can help him go back to England. An idea sparks in Michiel's mind, and he tells Jack that he can smuggle him on a ferry while the Germans have their afternoon tea break. Jack agrees, and so Michiel goes to meet with the ferryman, where they negotiate to smuggle Jack in exchange for food. Back at home, Michiel sees his father accepting a hunted rabbit from Mr. Schafter. After meeting the visitors, Michiel goes to their shed, and there his father asks for his help in skinning the rabbit. Michiel suddenly tells his father not to eat the rabbit since it is from a man who is affiliated with the Germans, but his father replies that meat is meat and it is better than eating soup again. And so at night, Michiel sneaks into their shed and steals the rabbit. The very next day, Michiel goes to Jack with another bike, but he is worried about seeing Jack in agonizing pain due to his wounded leg. Michiel has no other choice but to ask for her sister's help since she is a nurse. Michiel quickly gets her sister Erica and shows her the truth that he is hiding. As Erica is cleaning Jack's wound, Jack cusses in English and she is shocked to know that he is not like them. She successfully cleans Jack's wound and shows signs of her fancying him. After Erica leaves, Jack gives a small package to Michiel and asks him to have it sent to England and whether he knows someone who can do it for him. Michiel takes it, and as he goes back home, he gives the small package to his uncle Ben, thinking that he knows a way to send it to England. Ben tells Michiel about the risks he is being involved in, but he eventually agrees to send it for him. Going back to the woods, Michiel suddenly sees his sister going out of the hunter's shed where she insisted on continuing to take care of Jack since he is her patient. Michiel is annoyed by her sister's actions since he wants to be the only one who can save Jack. After the encounter with his sister, Michiel tells Jack to pack up since they have to go to the ferry at 3 p.m. to go to Svola, and Jack suddenly mentions that he likes Michiel's sister. The two finally go out to quickly catch the ferry. Unfortunately, they stop in their tracks as they see a guard dog in front of them. To avoid being noticed by the other German soldiers nearby, Michiel throws the skinned rabbit at the guard dog and they successfully go through. Adding more problems to their journey, a swarm of German soldiers is awaiting them at the end of the road, and so the two of them run through the woods to avoid them. Jack asks Michiel to go back home so that he won't get in trouble, and so Jack hides under tree branches and Michiel goes to check whether there are more Germans surrounding the area. Michiel goes back to tell Jack about the situation, but Jack is nowhere to be found. Leaving with no other choice, Michiel goes back home and tells her sister about Jack being gone. A while later, their telephone rings and Johann answers it as usual. Johann tells his children about the Germans discovering a dead soldier in the woods and are looking for the culprit, which worries Michiel. The following day, Michiel tries to go back to the hunter's shed, and there he finally sees Jack alive. Michiel tells him that they have to wait for a day or two before they can escape to Svola again. Jack then admits that he had shot a German soldier in self-defense and Dirk was supposed to be the one to dispose of the soldier's body. After their talk, Michiel is cycling his way home, but he suddenly slips and breaks the ice, leading to him almost drowning in the cold water. Luckily, a German soldier saves him on time and brings him to the hospital. Later that night, Johann sees his son attempting to shave his face using a razor, and so he teaches his son how to shave his face for the first time. Following a heartwarming moment for the father and son, German soldiers arrive at their home again while Ben is helping Michiel fix his bike. The Germans take Johann without any other explanation, alongside other men in their neighborhood. The whole family is distraught about Johann's situation, and so Michiel and his mother try to get Johann back, but they failed. Ben tries to make use of his contacts inside the town hall, but in the end, he breaks up the bad news to Michiel the next morning, saying that he did all he could to save his father. Michiel rushes to the town hall to admit to knowing who killed the German soldier to save his father. Unfortunately, he was too late. The death of his father leads to Michiel hating his uncle Ben because he could not save him. A few days later, Michiel goes to meet with Jack again and to continue to help him escape to England. He also lies about his father not being killed so that Jack would not blame himself for what had happened. They set forth and encounter problems along the way, but they finally reach the port. As the ferry is about to leave, Jack notices something far off at the end of the river. His intuition was right since there is a group of soldiers waiting at the end and are ready to fire bullets at them. The two quickly run to escape from the Germans, but Michiel's horse experiences an accident, and with everything happening all at the same time, Michiel blurts out about his father's death to Jack. Jack blames himself for the death of Michiel's father, but Michiel tells him that it's not his fault because the Germans were the ones who fired bullets at his father. The two eventually walk their way to Michiel's house, where Jack temporarily takes refuge in their shed. With no other options, Michiel finally tells his uncle Ben about his current situation, and from then on, Ben tells him that he will handle the rest. Everything finally falls into place with Jack finally having the opportunity to go back to England with the help of Ben. Feeling sidelined by the situation, Michiel sulks in the shed where Jack bids farewell to him and gives him a gift. Ben also goes to Michiel where he tells him that Dirk shouldn't have involved him in such perilous acts. As Jack, Ben, and Erica leave, Michiel opens up Jack's gift and sees that it is the deck of cards that he and Jack used to play. All of a sudden, Michiel realizes that he never mentioned Dirk to Ben, but Ben had mentioned Dirk's name. He goes to the attic to check Ben's suitcase, and there he discovers that Ben is actually a spy for the Germans. He instantly realizes that Ben had been spying on them all along, and he is actually going to surrender Jack to the Germans. Michiel quickly catches up to them, and he successfully saves Jack on time. Michiel grabs Jack's gun and points it at Ben while telling him that he knows the truth. Before Ben could take his gun, Jack punches him and they tie Ben to a tree. Jack and Erica finally help each other pass the bridge, where Jack is climbing under the bridge since it is the only way. Michiel, on the other hand, can only check their progress from afar, and he finally sees that they successfully pass the bridge. As he looks back at his uncle, Ben vanishes from the tree, and so Michiel tries to catch his uncle. During the chase, Ben trips on a tree and Michiel holds him at gunpoint. Ben tries to stop Michiel by saying that he had always protected Michiel since he is his nephew, but even though Germans are nearby, Michiel still pulls the trigger and kills his uncle. On May 5, 1945, the country of the Netherlands is finally free from the Germans. People are celebrating, with Erica and Dirk calling Michiel to go outside. Michiel is still downcasted, but Theo comes to give Michiel the rubber hose for him to try, and it finally puts a smile on Michiel's face. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.